It's tough. You never want to see injuries happen, first and foremost. You hate it when it's to anyone, let alone, the third season-ending injury that we've seen this year. But like I told our team at halftime, look, yeah.
The WNBA finds itself in a moment of reckoning, one where the headlines are no longer about growth, TV ratings, or rookie sensations, but about injuries piling up in devastating succession. This season has been an unrelenting storm, and the latest blow, the announcement from Stephanie White regarding Sophie Cunningham's torn MCL, has struck the Indiana Fever and their fans with brutal force. White's tone said it all: frustration, sadness, resignation. This wasn't just another injury update. It was the sound of a coach who has been pushed beyond the limits of optimism. When she said to her players at halftime, "Yes, we've been dealt a crappy hand, but we got to play it."
To talk about this, but I did tear my MCL. And if you're going to hurt your knee, that is like the best possible case. And so, this year, just as a whole, I think the league as a whole, but really us, we've just gone through so much adversity, and then injury-wise.
It summed up everything about the Fever's 2025 nightmare. Sophie Cunningham, the sharpshooter and unexpected leader who had risen to become a vital piece of Indiana's puzzle, is now gone for the year. It's the third season-ending injury for the Fever this season, and the fourth overall when factoring in Aari McDonald and Sydney Coulson. And, while injuries in sports are inevitable, the sheer volume and timing of these injuries has made it impossible to dismiss as coincidence. This is a crisis, and the league's failure to protect its players has become a national talking point. Sophie herself described the injury in hauntingly simple terms. She was just in the paint, helping on defense, when an opponent crashed into her knee. She felt a pop, and it was over. A torn MCL. For an athlete, there's no worse sound than your body betraying you in real time, and Cunningham knew instantly that something had gone terribly wrong. To her credit, she tried to downplay it, saying that if you're going to hurt your knee, an MCL tear is the best-case scenario. Right. But let's be honest. There's nothing good about losing an entire season to a knee injury when you're in the middle of your prime.
To be honest. And so during Connecticut's game on Sunday, I was just in the paint trying to be help side, and someone ran into my knee and it just snapped and knee injuries are weird to me. I don't really.
The Fever confirmed the inevitable shortly after, announcing Sophie's season was finished and bringing in Shea Petty on a hardship contract to try and plug yet another hole. But let's be real. No hardship contract is going to fill the void Cunningham leaves behind. The numbers tell the story. Sophie was averaging 8.6 points, 5 rebounds, and shooting career-high percentages from both the field and beyond the arc. She had stepped up in a massive way, following the losses of McDonald and Coulson, even taking on ball-handling duties and stretches. Her ability to stretch the floor and create scoring bursts gave Indiana life when their offense stagnated. Losing her isn't just losing a role player, it's losing the X factor that had been keeping this team afloat. The scene of her injury was gut-wrenching. Bria Hartley of the Connecticut Sun drove to the basket, lost balance, and crashed directly into Cunningham's leg. Sophie immediately grabbed her knee, crumpling to the floor in obvious pain. Fever fans had seen this horror show before with other players this season, and the arena fell silent. Just one day after celebrating her 29th birthday, Cunningham was being helped off the floor with tears in her eyes. And now she joins McDonald and Coulson on the long-term injury list. The frustration among Fever fans has reached a boiling point.
In this league, it's absolutely ridiculous. These players are paying a price for Kathy Engelbert's incompetence. Doesn't seem like a fair trade-off if you ask.
Losing one player is bad luck. Losing two feels unfortunate. Losing four in the span of weeks is a systemic failure. And that failure, fans argue, belongs at the feet of WNBA leadership. Commissioner Kathy Engelbert has done little to address the escalating physicality, poor officiating, and lack of protective measures for players. Instead, the league has allowed reckless play to go unchecked. When Bria Hartley dove into Cunningham's knee, where was the accountability? Where are the investigations into repeat offenders? This isn't just basketball, it's livelihoods being destroyed. Sophie Cunningham's absence compounds the already dire situation with Caitlin Clark. Clark has been sidelined since July 15th with a groin injury that has dragged on far longer than expected. Every day she remains out, the Fever's playoff hopes grow slimmer. And make no mistake, Clark isn't just a player, she's the engine of the team, the centerpiece of the WNBA's media coverage, and the reason attendance and TV ratings have spiked this year. Without her, the league's viewership has cratered. Numbers don't lie. Ratings drop by 55% when Clark isn't on the floor. Ticket resale prices have plummeted by nearly 60% during her absence. Merchandise sales stagnate. The Fever without Clark, and now without Cunningham, are like a ship taking on water with no rescue in sight. Stephanie White has done everything possible to keep her players engaged, constantly adjusting rotations, shifting strategies, and finding ways to squeeze every ounce of effort out of whoever is left standing.
In a corresponding move, we have signed guard Shea Petty to a 7-day hardship contract and released Kyra Lambert. Now, folks,
But this isn't sustainable. A coach can only patch holes for so long before the entire ship sinks. And now, the Fever face the toughest remaining schedule in the WNBA. The Indiana Fever's nightmare continues, but the broader issue goes beyond one franchise. This is a league-wide crisis, and Sophie Cunningham's torn MCL has become the symbol of everything wrong with the WNBA's current state. The timing couldn't be worse. The Fever were clinging to playoff positioning, already hampered by the long-term absences of Ari McDonald and Sydney Coulson, and desperately awaiting Caitlin Clark's return. Now, with Cunningham gone for the season, the entire structure threatens to collapse. The cruel irony is that Cunningham wasn't even supposed to be this essential. When the year began, she was projected as a role player, a floor spacer who could give them energy and shooting. Instead, she had become the glue holding the roster together, stepping into unexpected leadership roles and bailing them out of offensive droughts. Her shooting percentages, career highs from both 2- and 3-point range, made her a nightmare matchup for opponents. Opposing defenses couldn't ignore her, and that spacing gave the Fever opportunities they desperately needed. Now, that option is gone. Watching the replay of Bria Hartley crashing into Cunningham's leg is enough to make any fan sick. These moments aren't isolated accidents. They're symptoms of a league where officiating has failed to control reckless play.
Cunningham is out for the season. My question is, what kind of adjustments should the Indiana Fever make? What kind of adjustments does Stephanie White have at her disposal? What kind of adjustments is Stephanie White capable of to help this team make it to the finish line?
Hartley isn't the only one guilty of such incidents. Across the league, players are allowed to dive, hack, and collide with little accountability. Cunningham is simply the latest victim of an environment that rewards physicality without consequence. The fallout from her injury is immediate. Shea Petty has been brought in on a 7-day hardship contract, but that's essentially a band-aid on a gaping wound. Petty, a respected veteran, can provide minutes and stability, but she cannot replace the shooting, spacing, and versatility Cunningham brought. Indiana's depth chart is now paper thin. Imagine losing your starting backcourt in McDonald and Coulson, your best shooter in Cunningham, and your superstar in Clark, all within weeks. That's the reality facing the Fever, and yet they are still expected to compete against the best teams in the league. How? How is any franchise supposed to endure that kind of devastation? The most maddening part of this story isn't just the injuries, it's the silence. Silence from the league office. Silence from leadership. Silence from those who should be standing up for the players' safety. Fans see it. Coaches see it. Players live it every single day. And the message is clear. The league doesn't care enough to change. For Indiana fans, the frustration has reached an unbearable level. The season that was supposed to be a breakthrough has become a nightmare. They were told Caitlin Clark would elevate the franchise, and she did. Her presence brought unprecedented attention, viewership, and revenue. But what has the league done to protect her? Nothing. And when she went down, what has the league done to protect her teammates? Nothing. Cunningham's injury makes it clear. The Fever's 2025 campaign will be remembered less for basketball accomplishments and more for how it fell apart piece by piece, injury by injury. The numbers are damning.
Fever didn't even report what the knee injury was. They just said that it would be season ending. However, Alex Filippo, she reported that Sophie Cunningham did tear her MCL and that she would be out for the rest of the season, but she is expected to make a full recovery before next season. So
Without Clark, nationally televised games have seen ratings plummet from an average of 1.81 million viewers to just 847,000 tolerants. Ticket resale markets collapsed by 60%. Merchandise sales dried up. The Fever aren't just another team. They are the economic engine of the league. And now, with Clark still sidelined and Cunningham gone, the WNBA faces an existential problem. Who is tuning in to watch a product stripped of its stars? Sophie Cunningham's absence doesn't just hurt the Fever's win-loss column, it damages the league's marketability, its credibility, and its future. How do you sell fans on a playoff race when half the league's recognizable faces are out with injuries? The injury epidemic doesn't stop with Indiana. 5 of the 8 All-Star starters have dealt with major injuries this season. Aja Wilson has battled nagging issues. Satu Sabali missed time. Ryan Howard was sidelined. Angel Reese went through her own scares. And Caitlin Clark's absence speaks for itself. The league's condensed schedule and brutal physicality have created an environment where bodies simply cannot hold up. Players whisper about it behind the scenes. Coaches bring it up in press conferences. But at the top, leadership ignores it. Instead, the league focuses on marketing campaigns and broadcast deals, pretending the growing pile of injured stars is just bad luck. But numbers don't lie. By June, 105 injuries had already been tracked, far ahead of pace from previous years. If this continues, 2020 will obliterate the previous record of 204 injuries in a season. That isn't bad luck, it's negligence. For Indiana, the schedule looms like a death sentence. 3 matchups against the Minnesota Lynx, who are chasing history with one of the greatest seasons ever.
talk about tears in your knee. An MCL is one that has a quicker recovery period for the most part than something like an ACL, or sometimes even meniscus can be longer than an MCL. A patellar tendon obviously is much more severe than all of them. So it was good news that